Right, good evening everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Janetta Sosha and I chair the meeting. Before it starts, I have a few announcements to make. We've got emergency evacuation procedures. So in the case of a fire, a bell will ring continuously. If this occurs, please leave the building immediately, following the green fire exit signs out to the assembly point, which is by the War Memorial on Duke Street. If anyone requires assistance, please let me know. Lifts should not be used. Please remain at the assembly point and do not attempt to return to the building until you've been advised that it's safe to do so. The toilets are situated on the landing at the top of the main staircase and on the ground floor in the customer service centre. Please turn off your mobile phones during the meeting. Anyone attending this meeting is entitled to film it, but I should point out that only the councillors, officers, and anyone sitting around these tables may be filmed. Members of the public should not be filmed, so please ensure the cameras are pointed only in this direction. The meeting is also being broadcast on YouTube and recorded. Please, when speaking, we haven't got the usual microphone up, but there is a microphone over to your left. If you pick that up, you'll be able to speak from there. Yes, there should be a red light to say that it's on. Okay, thank you very much. Apologies for absence, Freddie.
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Hyland, Councillor Tron, for which Councillor Clark is substituting, and Councillor Frescona, for which Councillor Walsh is substituting. Thank you. Thank you.
Item 3 is declarations of interest. All members are reminded they must disclose interests they know they have in items of business on the meeting's agenda at this point or as soon as they become aware of the interest. Now, I will start this one off. So I will declare I have a non-pecuniary interest in item 6 and will vacate the chair for the item. Councillor Sue Dobson will take the chair for that item. Moving on to the minutes. More?
Sorry, Chair. I've actually called in item 7, so I will vacate the seat and move over to speak on behalf of the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Thank you. Right. The next item is the minutes of the meeting on the 4th of March 2025. Is it your wish I sign these as a true record? Thank you. Thanks very much. We're now going to check whether anyone wishes to make a question or statement at this point in the meeting, but I assume everyone will want to speak when their item is called. Have you heard of anyone else? No. Okay, in that case, each person will have 2 minutes when they do speak. Right, moving on, item 6. I will now vacate the chair and pass on to Councillor Dobson.
Right, thank you very much, Chair. I will carry on with the agenda. The next item on the agenda is item number 6, which is application number 24-01546 FUL, Unit 2 and Unit 3, 37 Beehive Lane, Great Baddow, Chelmsford. Can we have the officer report, please?
Hi members, As you will have seen from the officer's report, this is an application for the change of use of units 2 and 3 of 37 Beehive Lane from office space to a place of worship, religious instruction, education and training, falling under use class F1, and a meeting place for the local community, falling under use class F2. There are no specific times or days for worship. There are a small number of festivals that occur throughout the year. I will give you a brief run through of the site and conclude with the recommendation. The application site is an L-shaped parcel of land located on the eastern side of Beehive Lane. It consists of 4 commercial units. Unit 2 and 3 are the subject of this application and are outlined in red on the right-hand aerial image. Units 1 and 4 do not form part of the proposal and consist of a retail unit and a storage unit. The site is located within an existing employment area and is within Chelmsford urban area for policy context. No external works are proposed as part of the application. There is a mixture of commercial and residential uses in the area. The site is located within Chelmsford urban area where the principle of development is considered acceptable. The proposal would result in the loss of employment space in a designated employment area. However, due to the more limited floor space and practicality of the site, the loss is considered minimal and has been justified. The total 4 units on the site are served by 6 parking spaces. The site also has a narrow access off of Beehive Lane. Following arrangements made to utilise the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints car park located in Baddow Road, the parking arrangements are acceptable subject to a condition to secure this. In light of the current uses on the site, a level of noise is expected during the working day, typically 8 AM to 5 PM. Impact on the closest residential houses is considered acceptable, subject to the conditions restricting hours of use and another ensuring no amplified speech or music outside the building. Approval is recommended, subject to the conditions listed in the officer report. That concludes my presentation. I'll now hand over for any questions.
Thank you very much. I'll now go for the questions and statements from the public. The first, would you like to tell me the first? Right. The first question is from Mrs. Singh. Are they here? She's not here. Okay. You have the text of the question. That's fine. Does anybody not have that? That's all be seen. Okay. The second is a question from Mrs. Lele. Is she here? Yes. Okay. The microphone is on the side there. If you wouldn't mind speaking into that, please. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Why we need a Hindu temple? I am a Hindu and proud to be one. But where can I go to practice my faith? There are no temples in Chelmsford, and so the nearest place would be in London. Seeing a need for the growing Hindu community in Chelmsford, the Chelmsford Hindu Society was able to use Quakers Hall as a temporary religious space, but with limited access to the building throughout the year. I speak on behalf of the Chelmsford Hindu community when I say that the Beehive Lane property is truly a lifeline. Its location allows people access without driving to London and back, avoiding the miles of travel, traffic and stress. We, as a community, need a place where we can celebrate festivals such as Diwali and Navratri. This temple makes coming together as a community far easier, and a priest to instruct on all matters relating to the holy books, their interpretation and relevance to our daily lives. As a rich culture, we perform rituals at all stages of life, from the birth of a child to ceremony for the departed soul. Currently, we are resigned to searching for a location far from home or constrained to limited spaces at home. Having the temple will alleviate this problem. The community is made up of many professionals, and our expertise allows problems of health, education, and legal issues to be discussed and resolved, particularly for those who have difficulty with the English language. As a social meeting place, it will tackle loneliness in a gentle and informal way with the comfort of people who have the same beliefs. Language and heritage classes are important for our children's future. The Monday will allow a mix of age groups, passing of knowledge, stories, and family values to the next generation. The value that this temple will add to the Chelmsford Hindu community and in turn to the wider community is immeasurable. I appreciate the time and the consideration you have given to this matter. I'm sure you will agree it is a worthwhile endeavour. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do I have any other questions? No. Okay then. That's fine then. In that case, I'd like to open up for discussion from the floor. Who would like to start? Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Couple of simple questions. With regards to the conditions, there's one particular one with regards to the opening hours or hours of use. Can you confirm if Public Health and Protection Services are happy with that condition that's been imposed? And the second one, concerns have been raised about the traffic, and obviously that is determined by how many visitors the centre gets. The papers here suggest approximately 10 people. That sounds remarkably low. Has that been questioned back to the applicant? Thank you.
They'll take the secretary, take any other questions, and the officer can respond to them. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chairman. Actually, Councillor Lee addressed my first question, and that was really all I had to ask. But I just say that I do welcome this application, having in a previous life. No, that's probably not the best thing to say, but in a previous existence, supported the Chelmsford Hindu Society in trying to find a location.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, I just had a question because it has been raised, the parking arrangements, and if you could just give more detail on what the parking arrangement would be with the church on Battle Road. Thanks.
Anyone else? Councillor Armstrong?
Again, very supportive and positive of a place being found. Regarding noise, I know there was no outside speakers, but inside speakers regarding this property, with it being a industrial style property. I know where other faith spaces have looked for to convert an industrial property within the Chelmsford area in the last few years. There was conditions placed on noise from speakers being able to permeate through. Has any evidence been given to show that it can be contained within that space and that it's suitable?
If I could ask the planning officer to come back on those points, and then I'll pick up any further ones. If I could, you want to answer those points?
Yes, Chair, we'll answer them between us.
Yeah, we'd like to.
So members, if I just deal with those questions out of order if I can, just because we have a reserved slide in anticipation for some queries on the parking arrangement with the Latter-day Saints. So as you can see on your screen at the moment, you'll see circled in green is the church location, and then in red is the application site. So as you'll note from condition 3, as part of the submission there was a travel plan, an amendment travel plan submitted that deals with the arrangement on specific festival days, that there is an arrangement to use that car park. So as the case officer has shown on this slide, it's roughly about an 8-minute walk between those properties. That condition has been supported by Highways, who recommended such a condition, and obviously what you see in the condition that the officer report outlines is an amended version of that in order to meet the planning test. So that is the arrangement with the Latter-day Saints Church, which has up to kind of, I think it's 50 spaces within that for the festivals that are outlined within that document. We're also outlined on condition 2 in relation to hours of use. So in terms of some of the other queries, in terms of the hours of use specific query on that, as you'll note, the hours of use condition is amended from our standard one. Obviously in reflecting the nature of the use of a place of worship specifically, obviously beyond what would be considered office, potential office hours. Those conditions have been agreed not only with the applicant, but they have been agreed with public health as well. That's a direct response to your query, Councillor Lee. So those have been agreed with public health. In terms of traffic numbers, visitors, obviously I've just talked about the arrangement for festival days, but the 10 listed in the officer report, that's a general day-to-day number of visitors. So that's what's been anticipated. It has been scrutinised by the officer. Obviously the application has been with us for a number of months, whilst the case officer and local plan authority sought further information, including the amended travel plan that we ended up with. So in that respect, officers feel that has been scrutinised. That is a general average day-to-day submitted as part of their the applicant's planning statement. So officers are comfortable with that number. In terms of the parking arrangements, obviously the officer report deals with the number is limited. Obviously there's 6 spaces. There's some manoeuvrability issues, within the site. There are parking restrictions within the road as well. I say the wider, bear in mind this is an urban location. There's the ability to walk, cycle, and also catch the bus along Baddow Road as well. So sustainability-wise, it ticks all the boxes in terms of potential movements in and out of the site. So limited on site, which is recognised, but it's limited in terms of the existing employment use in any event. Parking restrictions in the locality will safeguard, as far as they already do, safeguard any spillage onto nearby road network. Obviously, you'll note that highways are consulted as they would be on such an application, and they're content subject to the conditions that they outlined, and you see one of those relating to the travel plan for the festival days, whereby we are anticipating higher numbers of users, occupants to the building. In terms of noise, in terms of the noise, obviously we have a condition in terms of amplified music outside of the building. The building is obviously an existing building. It's it's of its time. It's dated. It's not. I wouldn't say it's necessarily up to current installation standards necessarily, but there is a difficulty in planning terms in seeking such a condition. I note that we have used it historically, but obviously we can rely on environmental health legislation to deal with specific noise complaints. Obviously that is tempered somewhat with the hours of use, particularly on Sundays, bank holidays. So there is a balance to be struck in terms of the nature of that. But I think it has to come down to the practicalities of monitoring of specific noise, and that in our mind is best dealt with under environmental health legislation. So I think that was all of the queries as far as I'm aware, okay. Chair. I'm happy to take any other follow-up questions.
Okay, thank you. I know Councillor Clark wanted to ask a question.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Apologies if I overlooked it anywhere, but what's the maximum permitted number of people in the building?
There isn't a maximum limited by the planning legislation. Obviously, they would have to comply with fire regulations as a separate government act. So, there is a limit, but that's not something that we would specify through the planning regime.
Okay. Would anyone else like to comment in In that case, I will go to the vote. So for item 6, I move that application 24-01546/FUL, Unit 2 and Unit 3, 37 Beehive Lane, Great Baddow, Chelmsford, CM2 7TQ be approved, subject to the conditions detailed on pages 6 and 7 of the agenda pack. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Wilson. Okay, thank you. So all those in favour, please show your hands. That's fine. I think that's unanimous. Okay, lovely. Thank you. The application is approved. Thank you. Let's get the chair back. Right, moving on. Item 7, 24-01-01773 FUL, Shop Horseshoe Farm, Main Road, Bicknecker. Can I have the officer's report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This proposal is for the construction of a replacement retail unit at Horseshoe Farm. The proposal includes the demolition of the existing shop, relocation of the access, and formalization of parking areas and new landscaping. Thank you. The application site is indicated in red on this slide. It fronts Main Road and sits in between Horseshoe Farmhouse, Jester's Kids Club, and slightly further to the north is the White Swan, a public house. Beyond the application site to the east is farmland. The application site consists of a low-rise building, as it is visible on the image, informal parking area that serves the customers of the pet shop and the kids club. There's currently no formalized crossing point from the footway on the opposite side of the road to get onto the site. The proposal would remove the existing retail unit and would construct a new single-story building with related access, new parking layout consisting of 25 parking spaces for the customers of the new shop and the kids club. This parking provision is considered to be acceptable to the Highway Authority. The service yard would be at the rear of the site with space to turn delivery vehicles. A new 20-meter long pavement would be introduced to the site's frontage. The site would be accessible by foot at the new pedestrian crossing with a central refuge island. New landscaping would be added to the boundaries of the site, including numerous new trees. The opening hours of the proposed development would be between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. every day. These hours are considered to match opening hours of similar shops in the local villages, therefore are considered to be reasonable. Right, the proposed building would be 7.2 meter tall. It would be set back into the side and would use a series of gabled roof forms to disguise the standard retail footprint. The proposed forms would reference the history of the site and give a distinctive character. The front glazing would add a contemporary element to the new building. The proposed materials are red brick, black weatherboarding, cladding, clay pan tiles, and these are considered to be sympathetic to the local area. As such, the form and appearance of the building would be acceptable in this location and would not harm the street scene. The application site is, to the north of the application site is Kids Club, and to the south is Horseshoe Farmhouse, which is a residential dwelling with a separate building in use as a non-residential office. The layout of the neighbouring site is shown on the slide. There was a recent planning application that proposed to reduce the office space and add a residential annex within this neighbouring site. The new retail building would be located 21 meters away from the boundary line of this neighbouring site, and due to low height, it would not have any overbearing impacts on this neighbour. The associated noise with the use of the retail unit would be mitigated by installing a 2-meter high acoustic fence along the northeast boundary of the neighbouring site. There will be also a 3-meter buffer zone and new hedge and trees along the shared boundary line to further lessen the impact of the activities within the application site. As such, the impact on the nearby dwelling is considered to be acceptable following the implementation of the proposal. So in conclusion, the proposed development is considered to be acceptable as it would not harm the countryside beyond the village boundary. It would not harm the character and visual amenity of the street scene within the village. The access, parking, service areas and pedestrian crossing all have been considered acceptable by the Highway Authority. The impact on the nearest residential house would not be adverse and therefore acceptable. The proposed scheme is recommended for approval subject to the conditions listed in the officer report with exception to condition 5. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Michael Ward who wishes to speak. The microphone's across there. It is working.
Thank you, councillors, for your time this evening. My name is Michael Ward from Stratton Parker, and I am pleased to be here this evening representing the landowner. The site before you is partially located within the settlement boundary and at the heart of the village of Bicknaker. Planning permissions have previously been secured to develop the site, and most recently, consent was given for a mixed-use retail and office building. This application now seeks consent for a sole convenience store use. A good level of interest has been received from the market, and an operator has now been selected, with the store being designed to their specification. For a store of this size, the operator has indicated that it will generate up to 15 full-time equivalent jobs, most of which are expected to be taken by those living in Bicknaker and the surrounding villages. The store is intended to serve those living in Bicknaker, in villages beyond, and those passing by. Facilities are currently limited in Bicknaker, and in recognition of its status as a key service settlement, it is important that it provides local employment opportunities and convenient shopping facilities in line with the growth and policy aspirations of the council's local plan. Providing more choice in the village will reduce the number of car journeys to larger settlements located in towns further afield. The proposals have been subject to pre-application engagement with your officers, and revisions to the design and layout of the scheme have been made in response to the feedback given. The applicant has responded positively to the comments of statutory consultees, including by providing a pedestrian crossing over the main road as requested by the Highway Authority. This was supported by road safety audits, and the Highway Authority are supportive of the scheme. We have also reviewed planning conditions with officers, including those relating to store opening and delivery times, which generally align with those of similar stores in nearby villages. I am of the opinion that this will be a high quality development that will integrate well into the village of Bicknaker. I therefore respectively ask councillors to agree with your officer's comprehensive analysis and recommendation to grant this planning application. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Poulter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I am the lead councillor on Woodham Ferrers and Bicknaker Parish Council, and I talk to you on their behalf. The Parish Council's grounds of objection are outlined on page 6 of the officer's report. Time only allows me to concentrate on one of these, and that is the safety of pedestrians. The village of Bicknaker has a population of about 2,500 inhabitants and about 1,100 households. The application site lies on the south side of the B1418. All these buildings, except the White Swan Public House, Jester's Nursery and Kids Club, and 3 houses, are on the north side of the road. That is the side opposite to the application site. This means that all residents, visitors to the other shops and businesses, cannot access the application site without crossing the road. There is no pedestrian access, no pedestrian crossing in Bicknaker. Jester's Club is a preschool nursery with an outstanding Ofsted report. It is very popular with 30 children places and very busy in the morning and evening rush hours. This is the time when the B1418 is also at its busiest. As you have heard, the applicant has produced a road safety audit, which was dated last month. The author made just one visit to Bicknaker, lasting 20 minutes. And that was on Monday the 10th of March, between 10:15 and 10:35. Traffic conditions were noted as being light at the time of the visit. Any conclusions made from the road usage are suspect because of the time of the visit. The report makes no mention of either the safety of pedestrians nor of the fact that the B1418 is an important distributor route whose function is to carry traffic safely and efficiently between major centres within the region and consequently carries high volume traffic. That's item 4 on page 28 of the officer's report. The traffic is likely to increase with the approved development alongside this road north of South Woodham Ferrers. The only recommendation in this safety report is to move the pedestrian access raised table further north with an appropriate curb upgrade on the curb radius. The audit report was overseen by Essex County Council, although I'm not sure what that means. Although ECC Highways took no part in the preparation of the report, they were no doubt influenced by what it says, and more importantly, by what it did not say. Highways state that from a highway and transportation perspective, the proposal is acceptable. Safety has not been considered in the audit report or in Highways comments as a consultee. Now, in policy terms, the NPPF states at Power 115B that in assessing specific applications for development, it should be ensured that safe and suitable access can be achieved for all road users. That must include pedestrians. And paragraph 116 says that development should only be prevented or refused on highway grounds if there would be an unacceptable impact on highway safety. At paragraph 117, and now comes the important part, within the context, applications for development should give priority first to pedestrian and cycle movements, both within the scheme and within the adjoining area. It's just not been considered at all. Virtually the whole of Bicknaker is on the opposite side of the road. How are people going to cross? There's no pedestrian access. It is a very busy road. Access to jesters will be unsafe unless by car. I'm very nearly finished, Madam Chairman. Only 5 parking spaces have been provided for their use, and that includes teaching staff.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
To sum up, Madam Chairman, the proposed supermarket is in the wrong place, on the wrong side of the road, unsafe and contrary to policy. I respectfully request that you refuse the application.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to me.
Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members and officers. I have been cast to call in this application to committee because of the concern expressed by local residents and the Parish Council regarding the impact of the proposal on local highway safety and the adjoining property. Firstly, the proposal will have a detrimental impact on the area with considerable increase in traffic volumes to and from the convenience store. Whilst it is accepted that there is an extant planning permission for a Class E unit, this was for a small retail unit together with office space. A totally different animal to an open all hours convenience supermarket, which has an increased footprint of around 3 times the existing permission. Office space, of course, generates much less traffic movements, and this, coupled with the small retail unit, which would likely have opening hours of around 9 to 5, for example, has far less impact than which is the subject of this application. Despite the findings of the transport statement, which of course relies on hypothetical data taken from what are supposedly similar operations elsewhere and not actual automatic traffic count data, this area is heavily congested during the morning and evening rush hours. But of course this has not been flagged up since the authors of these report only attended for 20 minutes during mid-morning, the quietest time of day when traffic impact is at its lowest level. Of course this gives a false impression of little impact in the area. This area is a bottleneck for traffic coming from Malden to Chelmsford using the back routes rather than the A414 and from Danbury and East Hanningfield, which of course is set to increase dramatically when considering the development plan for Malden. The Office State report states that deliveries should be allowed 365 days per year between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Delivery vehicles, when manoeuvring, will block the road entirely for some time when entering and exiting the site. If members are minded to approve this application because of the impact on the road in rush hour, deliveries should be restricted from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. to minimise impact. Sundays and bank holidays should also be non-delivery days. The opening hours should also be conditioned to be restricted on Sundays and bank holidays for the same reason. This was conditioned on the approval for the similar store at East Eves Corner in Danbury and, bearing in mind that whilst not on an A road, it is on a main distributor route and similar restrictions should apply. Secondly, there are concerns that this will severely impact the residential dwelling adjacent to the site. Whilst there is an acoustic fence suggested at 2 metres high, this will not prevent overlooking from occupants of delivery vehicles, nor will it prevent noise from reversing bleepers or fumes for such vehicles. The proposed opening hours and delivery times will have an adverse impact on these residents, which conflicts with policy DM29. The external lighting proposed will also have a detrimental impact on the enjoyment of their property, especially bear in mind the 7-day-a-week opening times. No details of any lighting or any conditions of times of illuminations have been specified. And if this is approved, then such conditions should be included, with a minimum of all lighting being switched off outside opening hours. In summary, I ask members to carefully consider these points and refuse this application on the basis of impact of proposal on highway safety, bearing in mind it is based on a dubious transport statement and highway safety audit, and policy DM29 with regard to the unacceptable impact on the residential property adjacent to the site. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I will just check whether we missed someone in the audience. Francis Mollenhoff. Yeah, my apologies. Would you like to speak now?
Hello, I'm Francis Mollenhoff and I live next door in Horseshoe Farmhouse. Most of what I really wanted to say has already been said. But yes, the acoustic fence of 2 metres high is not going to stop any noise. There's also a so-called 3-metre grassed buffer zone next to the fence. I'm not sure how you stop members of the public walking through this buffer zone, and there's no way of stopping anyone. There is actually no footpath from my property to the store entrance, as the entrance has actually changed from the road. I, of course, are objecting to the opening hours, especially on a Sunday. The proposed refuge island isn't sufficient whatsoever. I am there all day, every day, because I have a business that I run there, and I see the amount of traffic and huge, huge lorries that come along that road. It is absolutely a disaster waiting to happen along there if this is passed, with such a ridiculous crossing where people will be stranded in the middle of the road trying to get across the road. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Just another point is that my house is over 400 years old, with hardly any foundations. I'm a little bit worried about the impact of the reverberations whilst the development is being built. Has this been investigated? The other lady across there also said that I had plans passed for the barn area to be made into an annex, of which I will be living in the annex and my family will be living in my house. So I'll be living exactly right next door to where the lorries will be turning right next to my fence. So I won't be happy to be woken up at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning with lorries reversing up to my fence.
Right, thank you very much. Sorry to have forgotten you earlier.
That's all right.
Right, does the officer wish to come back before I open it to the committee, please?
Shall I leave now, Chair? I'll leave now.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll pass over to Highways colleagues shortly. Just one or two points that have been raised. First of all, we need to need or otherwise to impose delivery hours. I'll leave Highways colleagues to comment on any aspect of that in relation to highway safety. But in terms on the effect of living conditions, we feel that the opening hours are between 7 and 10 o'clock, which are standard, don't need to be constrained further in relation to delivery hours. Delivery hours are going to be limited anyway for a store of this size. Mention has been made of the acoustic fence. It's a 2-metre acoustic fence on the boundary. We consider that should be adequate in terms of minimising noise effects from the proposed use. Reference has been made to the buffer strip alongside the acoustic fence. absolutely clear on the purpose of that, other than it is there, and it's unlikely, I mean, it's a benefit to have it. It's unlikely anyone's going to go in there and particularly make noise. I can't think there's any reason for anybody to go in there. Mention has also been made of incidental overlooking from lorries turning or manoeuvring within the site and looking over the 2-metre fence. Again, that's going to be for very limited purposes, and most drivers will be concentrating on their manoeuvring rather than looking over the fence. I think I'd now like to hand over to Highways colleagues to address in more detail the points raised by the speakers.
Okay, thank you. Please carry on.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll just I'll address the movement and then come to safety, etc. afterwards. Just in terms of the transport statement, which is different to the road safety audit, the transport statement uses TRIX data, which is the national industry recognised tool for trip generation. So it's, you know, we've assessed that. We're quite happy with the vehicle movements, and ultimately what's shown in the transport statement is, I would say, worst case scenario, and that isn't a significant impact as it stands anyway. You're likely to get to these sort of small stores. A lot of the vehicles are already on the road. There'll be linked trips or pass-by trips, so it isn't a massive generator of vehicle movements. It's convenience, and that comes in terms of actual trips to it as well. And in terms of then, and I'll take on the delivery vehicle. I mean, we've made sure we've got the swept paths for that, so that can enter and exit the site quite safely. And if it has to wait for cars to drive down the road, then like anything turning in, then so be it. But there won't be any safety or delay caused by the delivery vehicle entering or exiting the site. The applicants, as they produced appropriate swept paths. Again, the road safety audit has seen those, and we're satisfied with those. So the road safety audit is a separate entity done by qualified road safety auditors, and they don't have any part of the transport statement. So their site visit, although it says 20 minutes, they're purely there to assess road safety for everybody. So the only comments they make are issues that they've picked up on. Hence, there's that one recommendation which has then been addressed. So where they haven't mentioned anything, that doesn't mean they've assessed the whole scheme for all highway users in terms of pedestrians, car users, etc. And they will have taken account of the new footway and said the new crossing point, and for their point of view, they're happy with that. I mean, from our point of view, I would say at the moment there's no crossing point to Jesters. There's no recorded accidents. People have to run across the road with no crossing at all. This is quite a recognised, a pedestrian refuge is quite a recognised safe facility. By definition, there's a refuge in the middle of the road that you're safe on. Sometimes they can feel safer than zebras because people, in my experience, don't always stop at zebras, and this breaks up the crossing point and has a very good protection point in the middle. It's going to be wide enough to accommodate mobility scooters and parents with pushchairs as well. So from our point of view, we don't have any concerns over that. It might be busy in the peak period, but traffic will then be going slower. Very often people let people across at those times. Other times there'll be more than enough gap for people to cross one lane safely. You don't have to cross the whole road. So in our experience, we find pedestrian refuges are very safe and offer appropriate crossing for everybody. And in terms of the whole scheme, the access, geometry, visibility, it's all to standard. So the delivery vehicle, no problems at all, and we're also seeking to secure parking restrictions between the roundabouts to stop people just pulling up outside. But to be honest, the parking level is one of the highest I've seen for this size shop, so I don't think that would be a problem anyway. And also, you know, there was mention of the parking for jesters, but that could essentially, that's shared now with the existing pet store. So whilst there are 5 spaces specifically for jesters, people can always park whilst they go in and out in the car park for the retail store. I don't really see that being an issue. And as I said, there's probably be linked trips for people going in, popping into the shop, etc. anyway. So from our point of view, say there's no unacceptable impact on highway safety, and there's certainly no severe cumulative impact on the highway network. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open it to the committee. Who would like to start? Someone? We need to know your views. Councillor Armstrong.
So I currently use the pet store and I'm very pleased they've got a new location, which is good. But I do come out of that junction, and although on computer it may appear perfectly acceptable, I find it quite a challenging bit of the road network between the 2 mini roundabouts. There are pedestrians about. Now, this scheme's hopefully looking to, the view of the applicant, improve and make the other side of the road more appealing and part of the central community of Bicknaker, but that will increase the crossings. Was a pelican crossing, I know you mentioned zebra, but was a pelican crossing considered in that location instead of just a refuse island for crossing? The reason I ask is in a few cases that I know of in the immediate surrounding villages where a shop was put in, or planning has allowed expansions of, they were normally conditioned with a pelican. The adjoining village has 2 shops where 2 pelican crossings were made to be put in. So has that been considered in this example? Can I pause at that one and come back possibly later?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Can we have an answer to that, please?
Thank you, Chair. No, it hasn't been. I think in terms of if you drilled into the actual use in what it would generate in pedestrian movements, that would be massively overkill for it. As I say, if you any controlled, you would probably look at zebra, to be honest, in terms of a controlled facility. It's going to be, the speed will be appropriate essentially, and the use, but it's the use, I don't foresee it being, you're not going to get huge volumes of people trying to cross here ultimately.
Thank you. I would like to ask something, but I'll let Councillor Lee go first.
2 quite simple ones for the moment. Can you just clarify the defined settlement boundary? I got confused going through the pack. And the second one, a very simple one. Can you confirm the speed limit is 30 mile an hour on that road, or is it 40? I'm guessing 30. Thank you.
Do we have an answer?
We have a reserve. Here we are. The slide that you see shows the defined settlement boundary as it is. So the existing building where the pet and country store is within the defined settlement. The land to the rear and the side, which I think includes part of the car park, is not. You'll see from the report the point is made that this is, and it's not open countryside, it's an inset part of countryside within a site that does have some village uses on it. So our conclusion is that the effect of building beyond the defined settlement boundary in this case would not materially harm the appearance or character of the countryside.
Sorry, do you want to come back at that point?
Yeah, I'll come back on that. So why is the defined settlement boundary drawn as it is there then, and not as a straight line, well, as a natural straight line between the 2 neighbouring properties?
The practice is very often to draw a defined settlement boundary around existing development, and that's what happened in this case when the local plan was drawn up in 2020, or when it was published in 2020.
Okay, while you're thinking, I was going to ask, are the sight lines for a refuge different for when you're putting in a pelican or a zebra crossing? Do they have to be further away? Is there any?
Obviously, if you put signals in, you wouldn't necessarily need a visibility display for the pedestrians, because they would just wait for the cars to stop under lights. But pedestrian, refuge and zebra would essentially have the same requirements either side of the road.
Okay.
Which it has.
Right. Does anyone else want to speak? Okay. Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. I had a couple of questions, but actually Councillor Lee got there first, really. I wanted to check the speed limit, so it's 30, you clarified, yeah. Actually, I think Councillor Dobson asked about lighting, and I don't think that's been addressed, so I just wanted to raise that again if we could have an answer to that. Thank you.
So if you could just bear with us, please. We can impose a condition to control lighting, so we could add that to the list of conditions which we have.
I'd be happy for that to go in there. I don't know.
Thank you. We're just double checking we haven't got a condition already.
Okay.
While you're doing that, I think I noticed that if any signage has to be done, that is a separate planning application.
That's correct, Chair. It's dealt with by advertisement consent legislation.
Yeah.
We don't have a condition on lighting, so we can add one.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree that should go in there. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Right, anyone else? Yes, Councillor Armstrong.
Just on details on that lighting condition, can it be both that it be directional, downwards and limited, as well as it being turned off when the unit's not in use or a period of time afterwards, so it be both the style of lighting conditioned and the timing of it, so you get both the dark skies policy, but also because there are the neighbouring properties, you don't want sort of stray light to be going where it isn't needed. So whether that's inset bollard, lower forms of lighting rather than big beams up the top would sit the historic character better.
We can address that in the totality of imposing the condition and the discharge of condition which would follow, and the details that will be required to comply with that discharge.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Lilly.
It was mentioned by Councillor Dobson that other similar premises have conditions with regards to the deliveries. I understand this is proposed to be open from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. and that similar premises may have a condition from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. I know you suggested that that isn't necessarily required, but I do have some sympathy with a neighbouring property, and I'm not seeing why there should be any issue to actually have that condition of deliveries only from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m, apart from potentially the arrival of fresh produce in the morning.
It's difficult to speak for the applicant. I would have thought a condition restricting deliveries before 10 a.m. might give them some difficulty. I think after 6 p.m. is something we can consider further.
Yeah, okay, so I understand that like delivery of newspapers and fresh produce after 10 o'clock would be awkward, so okay, so a latest delivery of 6 p.m. I would be accepting of. As a condition.
Okay. We can consider a further condition to restrict deliveries to before 6 p.m.
So before 6?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? In that case, I'll take this item to a conclusion. I move that application 2401773/FUL, Shop Horseshoe Farm, Main Road, Bicknaker, Chelmsford, Essex, be approved subject to the conditions detailed on pages 35 to 42 of the agenda pack, and the lighting condition and deliveries to be restricted before 6 p.m. Am I right?
Yeah, before 6 p.m.
Okay.
You've got a green sheet as well.
Sorry?
You've got a green sheet as well.
Yes. Yeah. And the information on the green sheet. So that is my proposal. Do I have a seconder? I do. In that case, all those in favour, please say yes. In that case, the application is carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for your forbearance. And hopefully it will all go very well. Thank you very much. I have another item, but if people wish to leave now, that's fine. Thanks, everyone. It's just planning appeals as item 8. Please read them in your own time. And can I say, just since this is my last meeting as planning chair at the moment, thanks everybody for working with me, staff as well. And I've enjoyed it very much. Even if we haven't suited everyone, hopefully we've done a really good job. And thanks to all the planning members. Thanks everybody and all the very best. I don't know if you know why.
Sorry?
I don't know if you know why I'm stepping down.
I don't really know why, but